Good evening. My name is Malool, and I am the Director of Shared Services in the Division of Local Government Services in the Department of Community Affairs, a mouthful. I have only been in this position for exactly 5 months, so all these people up here probably know a lot more about shared services than I do, but prior to taking this job as Director of Shared Services, I was an attorney. I guess I still am an attorney, and I was the mayor of Scotch Plains. And I just want to let you know that after spending 10 years on my local governing body, we're not all corrupt. So I just want to get that out there. I want to talk about shared services. That the downside of being last is that, number one, your time is cut. So I only have 10 minutes now in a presentation that usually takes me an hour. And everybody has touched on what I want to talk about. So some of what you hear might be a little repetitive. One of the things that a lot of people have said here is that shared services is important. It's, I think, irresponsible as a local elected official if you're not sharing things. Everybody's going to tell you they're sharing something, but to what degree? I have more than 1,000 shared service agreements in my office, and they are required, every municipality is required to send their shared service agreement down to my office. So I keep them in a database, which we hope one of these days to make accessible to everybody to look at. The agreements aren't all great. That's where I hesitate, because if you look at them, you're going to say, well, why don't you do this one? And they're not all what they should be. But it does give you an idea of what is out there. But the thing is that you have to keep this in perspective. And everybody's touched on this, that shared services is not the answer that everybody's looking for. It's important to do. It can save your municipalities a lot of money. But as I used to say as mayor, in Scotch Plains, the average tax bill is $10,000. We got $1,700 of that. And if I was able to cut my budget in half, you'd save $800 a year. And that's not the kind of savings you're looking for. Now, a couple speakers talked about, well, what could you do? I mean, I personally think, after all these years in state and local government, I think that school funding, somebody brought it up earlier, school funding is really the answer. $6,500 of that $10,000 goes right to the school district. If you were able to cut that in half, then you're talking about some real money. And I can tell you that when my school budget failed, when I was the mayor, we only spent $12,000 a student, which is below the state average. But I still saw a lot of administrative services that were duplicative and a lot of waste. And that's one school district, and we have a really well-run school district. So I think that's the place to look. But I still think that sharing services is, I mean, it's the buzzword. It's what people want to see. You're all here. You want to talk about what your towns can do to share services. So, the Uniform Shared Services and Consolidation Act of 2007 is the law that governs all Shared Services Act. It also covers consolidation, which I'm only going to touch on at the end of the presentation. Consolidating municipalities, a couple people have talked about it. That is the third rail of politics, consolidation. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Most of the time I'm going to talk about shared services. The basic requirement for shared services is that any local unit can share or perform a duty for any other local unit that they can perform themselves within their own jurisdiction. And a local unit is defined as anybody who is governed by the local public contracts law. So that means municipalities, school boards, fire district authorities. As Matthew Boxer said, there are thousands of them, and they can all share with each other. These are some commonly shared municipal services. Basically, anything that a municipality does, they can share with another local unit. One of the more popular calls that I get these days is for dispatch and police. And the reason for that is several speakers have said that's where most of the municipal budget goes, is to police. And if you want to talk about what things you can ask your governing body, one of the things you want to ask them, because this was a pet peeve for me, is do you have uniformed officers sitting at your dispatch desk? Because if you do, you're spending probably $180,000, $190,000 for somebody to sit there and answer the phone when it could be a civilian who's getting paid about $40,000. So what you can do is get that, or what the local governing body should be doing is getting that officer back on the street where they belong and hiring a civilian to do dispatch. Another place is Public Works, that if you don't have a paid fire department, which as the freeholder said, most fire departments are volunteer, it doesn't mean they don't cost anything because equipment is enormously expensive for fire departments. And I know that in Northwest Bergen, the Northwest Bergen Mayors Association has done a study, and in Bergen County they have more fire equipment than they do in all of Manhattan. So, and a fire truck can cost $1 million. So, you know, you have so many fire departments, and within a town, so many companies, and that money can really add up. But after that, one of the most expensive municipal services is Public Works. And I can tell you this is an avenue where people have done a lot in shared services. One that I have seen very commonly is the town DPW will plow the school facilities, and in exchange, the school janitorial service will clean all the municipal buildings. The freeholder talked about counties. There is a push for counties to provide more services to their municipalities, and I apologize to the freeholder, but Gloucester County and Monmouth County are the two most active in the shared services area. Gloucester County, by the way, is where Senator Steve Sweeney is, and he's been very active in getting shared services, so that's probably why you see this. There is a list on top of all the shared services. County assessor, Gloucester is the only one who will be countywide assessing because there was special legislation passed to allow them to do that, and it's a pilot program. But as you can see, they provide dispatch, trash disposal, and other services for an average savings of 18 cents per municipality and a total of $25 million in budget year 2010 among all their municipalities. It is what most other states seem to be doing, or I'm sorry, most other states' government, they have county government. They don't have all of our little municipalities. And the governor has spoken about how he would like to see counties play a bigger role. And you saw that in Somerset County, where they're looking at a county police department. There are actually 2 municipalities in Somerset County who expressed an interest in joining into that department, but the project has been shelved until probably next year. And I can tell you that some of the objections were that one of the towns has their police department, their police car follow a school bus to school every morning. Another one has a police escort for a funeral, and they want those services, and apparently they're willing to pay for them. And unfortunately, that's what you're going to have over and over. It was up there as home rule. Everybody wants, not in my backyard. They want to keep their services the way they are. There are other statutory provisions in shared services. One of the more popular things is municipal court, and there are 2 ways you can share your court. One is shared, where you each keep your individual names, but you share personnel and you share facilities. The other is a joint court, where you have one name, one set of books, and the downside for this, for a lot of municipalities, is that the governor has to appoint the judge. There is legislation pending that will take that away from the governor and give it back to municipalities. But they both save money, and there are probably about 150 combination of shared and joint courts in New Jersey. Libraries becoming more popular. There are 4 types of libraries. I don't know if Middlesex has a county library system. No, they do not. So there are municipal, there are joint. Libraries can share services, they can join together. Association are private libraries. I've seen a lot of them, particularly in Bergen County, and they're closing down, and they share services with other towns that have municipal libraries. But again, there are laws that govern each one of those. There are other types of sharing. Joint insurance funds. A lot of towns are in joint insurance funds. Mutual aid agreements are more for efficiency. They're mostly for emergency services. And then there's cooperative purchasing. And there are several types of cooperative purchasing. County co-ops, commodities resale, which is where the municipalities say we'll buy gasoline. and they will resell that to school boards, and it's cheaper for school boards or other municipalities to buy it from them. There are only certain things you can resell them. Joint purchasing, again, between municipalities, schools, counties, fire districts, energy co-ops have become very popular. So there are a lot of ways that people can have economies of scale. I believe that the freeholder was referring earlier to Senate Bill 2. This is sponsored, it's bipartisan, it's sponsored by Senator Sweeney and Carrillos in the Senate and Assemblyman O'Toole, and there's a lot of co-sponsors in the Assembly as well. Basically what this legislation would do is the money, the grants that used to be available were the carrot and the stick. This is the stick. It's the money that was given out for grants before I came. Actually, my predecessor was a lot more popular than me because he used to be able to give out money. Now I get calls every day. Do you have any money for studies? And I don't have any money to give anybody anything anymore. And I think the reason is because there were a lot of studies done and not as many shared service agreements or consolidations as the administration or legislature would have liked to have seen. 1 minute. So this legislation will actually it will almost force municipalities to share things that have been identified by the Luar Commission. And this is where you can play a role because if the governing body does not institute the shared agreement that, or the shared opportunity that had been identified, people may get the opportunity to vote on it, and this is your opportunity to actually have a say. And I have to tell you that one of the obstacles, and I think somebody mentioned before, one of the obstacles to shared services is the public. It's not you who are here because you're here because you care and you understand how you should have efficient government, but it's your neighbors and your families because local elected officials are impacted by how their residents feel. And if the residents say, oh no, you can't take my, you can't take my police department, you can't change my police department. I want that police car escorting the school bus to school every day. How are you supposed to deal with that? Because honestly, I mean, elected officials want to get reelected, so they want to do the things that their constituents want. So if you can get the word out, and you're here because you want to be educated, but that's the key, is having public participation, public cooperation, and it's broadening your mind to try and accept things that are outside the box. I've often said, that people are kind of schizophrenic. They want lower taxes. They would come to our council meetings and say, you need to lower my taxes. And then the minute that you try and institute something, they're like, oh no, we don't want to change that. We don't want to change that. So it's kind of a dichotomy that's difficult to get around. I do just real quick want to talk about consolidation because that's the other side of that law. As I said earlier, it's the third rail of politics. Nobody really wants to talk about consolidation because nobody wants to give up the town name. Nobody wants to, what's the name of the town going to be? What are the police going to be called? And those are not the things that you should be worried about. Short Hills in Essex County is not a town. It's Milburn, but everybody knows it as Short Hills. Woodbridge, right here, Woodbridge. Ford's, Colonia, they're not towns. They are unincorporated sections of Woodbridge. So the fact is that you're not going to lose your local identity if you do consolidate towns. There are several different ways that you can consolidate, but for purposes of tonight, I just want to let you know about a public participation part of the local option municipal consolidation law, which gives the public the ability to have petitions signed to create a consolidation study commission. And I'm not going to get into the specifics. It's fairly, well, it's not that complicated, but I'm not going to get into it here. If anybody wants to talk about it, we can do that later. I can tell you in my town in Scotch Plains and Fanwood, that is going on right now, where citizen groups have put petitions together to try and form a consolidation study committee. They come down to our offices, the local finance board, and the finance board will consider the application, they approve the application, and so now a study will take place, and ultimately the people, if it's recommended that we consolidate, the people in both towns will have the opportunity to vote for referendum. but you can become active in those kind of efforts. The last time we did have consolidation was in 1997 with Pafari and Hardwick. Hardwick had like 20 people that lived there up in the Delaware Watergraph, and of course Princeton will be the next in January of 2013. I think the key there, here in consolidation and in shared services, is you have to have the political and public will to get this done. Because you can't really, it's very difficult to have one without the other. You need to be able to save money, because that's really what people care about. And you need to be able to provide efficient delivery of services, because if you're saving money and you're not getting services, then it really isn't worth it. And since my time is probably up, this is my contact information. If anybody would like to email me or call me, I do spend my days, I've spent the last 5 months, going around to different municipalities and counties and trying to offer our technical services. So I will be calling the freeholder next week to offer those services to him. Like I said, I'm new in this position, and that has been what I've been trying to do, is go around and pair communities up, go make opportunities known to them that maybe they don't know about. So if anybody wants me to come to your town and talk to your mayor or business administrator, I would be happy to do that.